Hi guys, welcome to Grammar and Writing Lesson 31. We're going to get started with our vocabulary. First of all, we have a prefix focus, ante. Guess what? It's Latin. Woohoo! We finally get off of the Greek prefixes for maybe like one or two lessons. And we have a Latin prefix, ante. So what does this mean? It means before. Sounds similar, right? We just talked about how pro means before. That's the Greek version. So ante is the Latin version of before. So let's see how it works. Antebellum. Antebellum. You've probably heard of Lady Antebellum. That's a singing group if you haven't heard of them. Anyway, so you may have thought that, wait a minute, that's just a name, isn't it? No, it actually comes from this word, antebellum. I'm really not sure why they use the word antebellum as their name. No idea. But anyway, this is what antebellum actually means. Before the war. The antebellum attitude of Americans during World War II was somewhat mixed. This means that the attitude of Americans before the war, during World War II. Now you might be confused. What do you mean before the war and during the war? When did this happen? Before or was it during? Well, America didn't enter World War II until like halfway through. So before the war, what it means by antebellum attitude would be before America entered the war, but still during the war. So before America entered the war, some of the Americans did not want it, and then some of the Americans did want to enter. So that was what that sentence means. The next word is antedate. Antedate. So what do you think that means? Date, remember, is fecha. So it means to be older than something or to precede in time. So that means it's it came before something else. So it's older than it because it came first. It precedes it. Precede is to come first. So for example, the radio antedates the television. The radio came before the television. Anteroom. Anteroom. This is a smaller room that leads into a larger room. So an anteroom, that's the first little room that you go into, and then you go into the bigger room. So it's like a lobby or something like that. Some houses may have an anteroom that's more like a little foyer. So it's a small room, and then right behind it is a bigger room. For example, people waited in the anteroom until the banquet doors opened. So that would have been the little waiting room right before you go into the big banquet hall. Let's get some practice in. Fill in the blank with the correct vocabulary word. The Latin prefix meaning before is what? Herbs and penicillin blank many of our current antibiotics. So that means our current medicines. What would it be? Number 3, that clothing style was popular before the American Civil War, so we call it blank. And number 4, patients usually wait in a blank before being admitted to the hospital. What is the correct vocabulary word for each of those blanks? Okay, the Latin prefix meaning before is ante. Herbs and penicillin antedate many of our current antibiotics. That clothing style was popular before the American Civil War, so we call it antebellum. Patients usually wait in an anteroom before being admitted to the hospital. Okay, moving on now to grammar. Ready? Take some notes. We are going to be reviewing sentences. You are going to have an evaluation over sentences next week, okay? We're going to have a Zoom call next Wednesday. So 1 week from now, we're going to have a Zoom call to work on your sentences. And then on Friday is your evaluation, which will not be part of a Zoom call. You just are going to do that on your own, okay? But your evaluation is about sentences, so pay careful attention. What is a sentence? Well, that is a group of words that expresses a complete thought. Remember, it has two parts. What are the two basic parts of a sentence? Answer out loud. Can't hear you. Louder. Yep. The subject and the predicate. The subject is who or what is doing the action or is there, and the predicate is the action or the state of being. For example, the lifeguard blew his whistle. Do you see an action or a state of being? What's the verb? Blew. Blew. Who or what blew? Lifeguard. The lifeguard blew. Okay, so that's your subject and your verb. Remember, your subject and predicate together kind of make their own little sentence. On the table lay a mysterious package. What is the verb? What's your predicate? Lay. Very good. Lay. Well, what lay? Table? No, it's not the table. The table's not laying anywhere. The table is there. Something is on the table, laying on the table. What is it? The package. Package lay. So the package lay on the table. All right, let's look at the next one. This fur coat is expensive. What's your verb? That one should be super easy to pick out. Is. What is? The coat is. If you said fur coat, I would accept that. Fur is an adjective describing what kind of coat, so really it's just the coat is. But you could say that they're very closely connected and say that you should say fur coat. I would accept that. But the idea that the coat is expensive. What is a compound sentence? So to give you a hint, a simple sentence is one subject predicate set. You can have a compound subject and or a compound predicate, but it's one set. That subject or subjects goes with that predicate or predicates. That is a sentence containing two or more simple sentences that are usually connected by and, but, or, nor, for, or yet, or a semicolon. So and, but, or, nor, for, yet, or a semicolon. That's that little mark that you see there, the dot and the comma. For example, I have finished my homework. I still have some time for a snack. Have finished is your verb, but then you have another one, still have. So, oops, that should just be have. I'm sorry. I made a mistake. It should not be still have. I have. Have is the verb, not still have. Still is an adverb. Sorry. Okay. I have some time for a snack. But what? Who has finished? I have finished. Who has? I have. So that's your subject verb sets. You have two separate sets joined by your semicolon. I have finished, semicolon, I have. Let's look at the next one. The table is made properly, but the chair's legs are uneven. Is made is your first verb. Are is your second. What is made? Table is made. What are? Legs are. So these legs don't go with is made, and table does not go with are. They do not go together. Table only goes with is made, and legs only goes with are. So these are two separate sentences connected by the comma and conjunction but. Let's look at the next one. Rebuke a wise man and he will love thee. What are your verbs? Rebuke, will love. What's your subject? Well, for rebuke, it's understood you. You rebuke a wise man. That's imperative. Who will love? Is it you? No. He will love. It's a separate subject. So these are two separate sentences joined by the comma and. So this is a compound sentence because they're separate subject-verb sets. Don't be scared. This is some practice. So I want you to draw one line under each subject and two lines under each verb. Draw a box around any punctuation and conjunctions that join the parts of compound sentences. Identify each sentence as compound or simple. Okay, let me go over that again a little slower. So you need to write down each sentence, okay? Yes, I know. I want you to write down each sentence. So don't ask me, do I really need to write it down? Yes, please write down each sentence. Number 1, draw one line under each subject. So you need to find the subjects, draw one line under it, and two lines under each verb. Remember, you really should start by finding the verb. Find the action or the state of being, draw two lines under it. Then ask who or what did that thing or who or what that goes with that verb. Draw one line under it because it's the subject. If you have a comma and conjunction or a semicolon joining each subject and verb set, draw a box around it. So if you have a comma but or a comma and, comma for, or you have a semicolon, then you need to draw a box around that. Then number 3, tell me if that sentence is compound or simple. So if you have a box around something, it's going to be compound. If you have no box around anything, it is simple. Okay? Don't forget, you can have a simple sentence with a compound subject and a compound verb because the compound subject goes with that verb. They go together. Okay? So I want you to pause your video now and give that a try. Okay. You should only be playing this video from this point on if you have already finished all 8 sentences. Let's check them. Number 1, I went to the library, but I did not get any books. Your verbs are went and did get. Did you look for all of the verbs, including the helping verb did get? What are your subjects? Who or what went? I went and I did get. So you have 2 separate subject-verb sets. So they are joined by what? Comma but. So this makes it compound. Very good. Number 2. A bee buzzed around his head and landed on his nose. Okay, so here, what is your verb, or what are your verbs? Well, first we have buzzed, and then we have landed, both actions. So what is buzzing and what's landing? Is it 2 different things or is it the same thing? It's the same thing that goes with both of those verbs. A bee buzzed and landed. So nothing is, there's not 2 different sets. The bee goes with buzzed and goes with landed. So it's simple. Now you might be thinking, but Miss Ashley, in the first one, you had the same subject. Yes, you have the same subject, I and I, but you have 2 of them. So the first I does not go with the second verb, it goes with the first verb, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, if you don't, just hang in there, keep practicing. Okay, number 3. The band played loudly and the people clapped with the music. So what are your verbs? We have played and we have clapped. Did you get those? Who or what played? The band played. Who or what clapped? Is it still the band? No, it's something different. The people clapped. So we have 2 different sets joined by and, comma, and. So because we have 2 different sets joined by that conjunction, it's compound. Number 4, a dictionary and an encyclopedia are helpful research tools. What's your verb? Are, just are. That's it, nothing else, just are. So what are? Well, remember that are is plural, so it means you're looking for 2 subjects. You're looking for dictionary and encyclopedia. Dictionary and encyclopedia are. Do you have 2 different sets? Nope, so there's no joining word or punctuation, which makes it simple. Number 5. The Natchez and the Robert E. Lee raced down the river and headed for the finish line. What's your verb or verbs? You have raced and you have headed. Who are what raced? Well, the Natchez raced and the Robert E. Lee raced. Both of them raced. Who are what headed? Well, it's the same thing, the Natchez and the Robert E. Lee. So those aren't repeated, so they go with both raced and headed. So even though you have two subjects and two verbs, it's still one set because Natchez and Robert E. Lee both go with raced and they both go with headed, that particular set. So it's one set of subject and verbs. They're not joined by any joining words or punctuation. So this is simple. Number 6, the Robert E. Lee won the race, but the Natchez was not far behind. What are your verbs? Well, first you have won, and then you have was. Did you get both of those? Who or what won? The Robert E. Lee won. Who or what was? The Natchez was. So are those together? Does Robert E. Lee also go with was? And does Natchez also go with won? No, they're separate. They're joined by the comma but. So that makes it compound. How are you doing? Are you getting the hang of it? If you feel like you need to pause and try again, number 7 and 8, please do. If not, let's go on. Airplanes and automobiles often raced each other during the early 1900s. What's your verb? Raced. Anything else? Nope. Who or what raced? Airplanes raced. Anything else? Automobiles raced. They're both sharing raced, so there's not two different sets, so this is simple. Number 8, Olympic swimmers and divers must have great determination and must train for hours each day. Okay, what's your verb? We have must have, and there's one more, must train. Must is your helping verb here, so must have and must train. Who or what must have? Swimmers must have. Anything else must have? Divers must have. Who or what must train? Well, it's the same swimmers from earlier. And also the divers. So swimmers and divers must have. Swimmers and divers must train. But just like in number 5, this is still one set because the same swimmers and divers go with must have and with must train. So it's a compound subject, compound verb, but a simple sentence. Okay, let me know how you did. Do you understand it? Doing well? I want everybody to send me a text message or WhatsApp message. I guess it's not really texting anymore. Yeesh, I feel old. Anyway, send me a message telling me how many you got right and the numbers that you got wrong. If you got any wrong. If you didn't get any wrong, woohoo, good for you. Okay, we're going to keep going with reviewing our sentences. Let's talk about the types of sentences. First of all, what is a declarative sentence? Have you said what it is? Say it out loud. It is a sentence that makes a statement. How about an interrogative sentence? What are those? That's a sentence that asks a question, right? How about an exclamatory sentence? What is that? That's a sentence that shows strong or even sudden feeling. And finally, what is an imperative sentence? You said it? It's a sentence that gives a command. Okay, let's practice with these. Whoops. Identify these sentences as declarative, interrogative, exclamatory, or imperative, and write the correct ending punctuation. So the first example, is if God be for us, who can be against us? So you need to write this sentence down. And yes, I know you could just write which one it is and the ending punctuation that goes with it, but I want you to take the time to please write it down. That way you think about it a little bit more as you write it. Okay, if God be for us, who can be against us? What punctuation should go at the end? And which type is it? Is it declarative? Is it just stating a fact? Is it interrogative, asking a question? Is it exclamatory, showing strong, sudden feelings of emotion? Or is it imperative? Is it a command, someone telling someone to do something? Remember that declarative and imperative sentences both take periods, except if the imperative sentence is showing a lot of emotion, then it would be an exclamation point. Exclamatory has an exclamation point, and interrogative a question mark. So if God be for us, who can be against us? What punctuation? Which sentence type? Number 2, that is an amazing book. That is an amazing book. Number 3, the only way to have a friend is to be one. I believe Ralph Waldo Emerson said that. It's a quote from someone. And if God be for us, who can be against us? It is a verse, by the way. Number 4, do not tell lies or gossip. Do not tell lies or gossip. It's a command from God from the Bible. Number 5, there is no substitute for hard work. There is no substitute for hard work. Number 6, focus on heavenly things instead of earthly things. Focus on heavenly things instead of earthly things. Number 7, how beautiful is the rain? Okay, ready? So number 1, if God be for us, who can be against us? This is interrogative. You're asking a question, so you need a question mark. Number 2, that is an amazing book. This is exclamatory. That word amazing kind of gives you a clue that it's something that you put a lot of emotion behind. So that needs an exclamation point. The only way to have a friend is to be one. That's just making a statement, so it's declarative and it needs a period. Do not tell lies or gossip. That's a command, so that's imperative, and it needs a period. There is no substitute for hard work. That is declarative, it's just making a statement, so it needs a period. Focus on heavenly things instead of earthly things. Well, that's a command. They're telling you what to do, so imperative. And that, of course, needs a period. How beautiful is the rain? Now, if you put a question mark, I would understand, but listen to my emotion. How beautiful is the rain? You're not really asking a question there. You're stating that the rain is beautiful, but using that question word of how, that's often used to kind of show a little bit more emotion. So like, oh, how amazing is this? It's an understood question that you're just stating this is so amazing, but in the form of a question. So that's really an exclamatory sentence that needs an exclamation point. If you chose to put a question mark, I can understand, but really this is actually an exclamatory sentence. Okay, so now let's talk about your homework. Your homework is to complete Language Worksheet 1. So you need to find Language Worksheet 1 in your packet. It has handwritten underneath the spot that says name, Language Worksheet 1. You need to complete that for your homework today. Do your very best. This is going to be good practice for your evaluation next Friday. Okay? If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget to send me a message telling me how you did on the first review exercise. Love you guys. Have a great day.